você vê hoje a herança de Stanislavski? Como é que você considera que o método chegou até o século XXI?
How do you see today Stanislavski's heritage, or what has he left to us? What is of Stanislavski in the 21st century?
You know, it's really interesting, that question, because especially in Europe, they will bring in method acting, Stanislavski-based acting, and a lot of times people think it's almost reacting to it like it's this new heretical idea, you know, right? Save us from the devil. It's not new. I mean, it's 110 years old or so. 120 years old, I don't know. And yet, a lot of theater and actors have not gotten it. They simply don't get that an actor can truly be organic and experience the role. Or they think there's something wrong with that. They think that's not art. Because art is artifice, it's artificial. You know? And this is, again, the intellectually based artist who wants the actor to be a puppet. And this is what a lot of, unfortunately, the avant-garde theater has turned into. So a lot of, even schools that claim to come from Stanislavski of the last period of the method of physical actions will turn it into this, or Meyerhold, will turn it into this way of training actors for physical theater. Great, I mean, I'm not against it. It's great training, it's great for the body, it does all sorts of things. But I've seen these actors and they're very artificial. Even physically, they're very artificial. I'm surprised. I would thought, you know, you guys are supposed to be physical geniuses. What happened? I don't believe you for a second in your body. Oh yeah, but we studied Meyerhold, we studied, what's it called? Mechanica, right. Biomechanica, and we studied the method of physical actions, and yeah, so I still don't believe you. And I love avant-garde theater. I've directed a lot of it. I love Robert Lepage, some of Peter Brook, Robert Wilson, etc. So don't get me wrong, but 90% of the avant-garde theater I see is garbage because you don't believe it. It's like the actors seem to be acting weird for the sake of being weird. Why? What's it coming from? Oh, if you have to ask, you don't understand. You know, you're uncool. You're totally uncool, and you're stupid. I said, excuse me? I thought you guys were all left-wing. I thought you were all very liberal and left-wing, and you're for the people. But the people don't get you. You're not doing this for the people. You're doing it for your artist friends who are writing in their art journals about the weird shit you did Saturday night. You know, putting dead things on the wall and babies bleeding on the floor or some shit. You know, this to me is not theater. It's not good theater. It's not for the people. We don't get it. Sorry.
As escolas de teatro sempre reivindicam uma parte de Stanislavski para o bem ou para o mal. O que é que as pessoas acham que sabem sobre Stanislavski, mas não é Stanislavski? O que se deve esquecer sobre Stanislavski?
The theater schools always talk about Stanislavski in a good or a bad sense.
Yeah.
What are the things that are commonly mistaken for Stanislavski's teaching? What should we forget about what people say about?
What we should forget about.
Or we shouldn't? What we should. What we
forget
should,
about one thing, it's Stanislavski, and it's not.
What should we forget about those things? What is it?
That people say about it?
Yeah, that is not true.
Well, about Strasberg too, and Stanislavski, you know, that it encourages people to be mentally unstable, that it makes actors mumble and scratch, and not, you know, like this. It makes, it's only good for lower class characters. It's not good for comedy. Even though the most successful play of the Moscow Art Theater when Stanislavski was alive was the Inspector General, Gogol. Funniest thing anybody ever saw, right? It's pure comedy. I love, and to me, the Stanislavski and Strasberg traditions are highly effective for comedy, farce, avant-garde, you name it, almost everything. And I've even worked with opera singers, you know, who can be extremely artificial in their acting and try to solve those problems with their voice coach, because I found, it's interesting, because I found, I was working with a young lady who was singing La Bohème, and of course she has consumption. How do you sing so beautifully when you're dying of tuberculosis? But okay. We worked on all this, and I wanted the disease to be more real in her. And the vocal coach was there too. It was very interesting because I'd want her to do it from, she'd find a certain position. He'd say, no, no, she can't produce her voice from that position. I said, oh, okay. Well, what if she did that? Oh, that's a little better. Let's just adjust it. And we'd find, the two of us would find a position for her, which was more natural and yet also could produce the voice. So, you know, these things are possible, actually possible. But getting back to the question, yeah, there's a lot of myths about these things, mainly the things I mentioned concerning Stanislavski and Strasberg. And I'm amazed at the amount of hatred, usually from university professors, for, yeah, in America anyway, for the method. I think they think it threatens them. And I think a lot of actors or directors who don't like it, they don't like, they're threatened by the idea that the actor experiences the role, that the life on stage is more real, because it's scary to them, it's unpredictable, it's explosive. And they're a little bit more, you know, they like everything very aesthetically put in the right order. You know, like sort of decorating for the princess or something, or for the queen. This is what it reminds me of. I don't want to use a nastier word for it, but I think you know what I mean. They're too precious. They like the theater to be very precious, and only we are the people who can practice theater. We are the ones who are special, and we speak a certain way and move a certain way, and it's like, that's a lot of old crap. Yeah. And as though it's some style, it's like a stylistic thing, as opera is actually, and ballet. They're beautiful, but they're styles. They're not real. And why in theater do people talk and move and do that in this classical way, or even the way they do modern things sometimes? Why? Why? I talk to my students every day. They do something I call the 19th century turn away. You know what this is? Like you and I are having an argument, right? And you say something that offends me, I turn away. And I stay there for the next 5 lines because I can't stand to look at you. Who does that? Nobody does that. But that's what a lot of actors do. This style thing. A style of what? Or there's a school in New York that trains people in what they call the mid-Atlantic accent. This is half, because America theater, of course, wants to be British.
Yes.
Which, I mean, why? Why be second best?
Like Brazilian theater used to be Portuguese.
Right.
We have the Portuguese accent for decades.
Right. See, it's terrible. Because you're never going to do it as well as the British. Why try to be them? Be yourself. You'll be better than they are at what they, you know. It's ridiculous. But so they developed this thing called the mid-Atlantic accent. It's sort of halfway between British and American speech. Nobody speaks this way except a bunch of fish. It's not real. Nobody talks that way. What are they doing? You know.
Mas mesmo dentro desse registro verdadeiro, há diferença de interpretação para teatro e para câmera?
Okay, in this place of the true and honest and impulsive acting, is there a difference between the techniques of theater and film acting?
Some, not that much as people would have, you believe. I've taught film acting a lot at the Strasberg Institute in New York. For years I taught film acting. And yet, you know, when I started and I got my first film roles, there weren't film acting classes around. And you learned what you needed to learn on the set in the first day. You learned how to hit a mark. It's easy. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take a class to learn how to hit a mark. You know, all that technical stuff that these film acting schools teach you, you can learn in a couple hours. It's a way. It's just getting your money. I think, you know, some people say, oh, well, you're bigger on stage and smaller on film. Yes and no. I mean, Dustin Hoffman's pretty damn big on camera. You know, Pacino can be. Certainly a lot of British actors are. I think it's a matter of degree. It depends on what story you're telling. I would say, put it this way. In general, if you had two identical twins, let's say brothers, I'll be sexist, and one identical twin is the film twin and the other identical twin is the stage twin, they're the same, except the stage twin is slightly more expressive than the film twin. Sometimes, most slightly. And that's about it. Mm-hmm. I don't really think people should get all bent out of shape about it. There are certain things in film you learn, like, you know, don't move like this in a close-up, right? You know, you've got to be very centered, and a lot is said without moving a muscle, especially in close-up or in reaction shots. Other than that, it's fairly simple. There's been a lot of dumb actors who did very well in film. I mean, you know, mm-hmm. It's not that difficult. It ain't brain surgery. Stage is harder in general. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to keep it going for 2.5 hours or whatever it is. I think of film as being like a sprinter, 100-yard or 100-meter dash. You have to have very strong concentration for that short period. And film acting like being a marathon runner. You have to keep it going and going and going and going for however many hours the play is. And sometimes film acting is harder, but most often stage acting is harder.